Welcome to the latest edition of Breakaway Rail Talk, sponsored by Arian Pedigrees. Today, I'm going to talk to Blue Lyon Thoroughbreds founder and managing partner Dave Lyon, one of my favorite people in the industry. It's going to be a party, as you can see by the rotating disco lights that are on me today. As always, Breakaway Rail Talk is sponsored by Arian Pedigrees. Go check them out at arian.co.nz. That's arion.co.nz. Andrew Stewart, our good buddy who we have on from time to time, has produced so many interesting pedigree notes from all the data on Arian. We got a couple here that we're going to throw up. First, we got Kyprios, who was the winner of the Gold Cup at Royal Ascot. Kyprios' dam has had 10 foals, 10 winners, 8 of those being black type winners, and 3 of them Group 1 winners, as you can see in this pedigree. It doesn't get more blue hen than that. Kyprios is bred on the Galileo Danehill Cross. It's produced 18 Grouper Grade 1 winners from only 268 runners, almost 7%. Galileo now, as a sire, has produced 99 Group 1 winners. There's only 85 stallions ever who have produced 100 or more stakes winners. He's got 99 Group 1 winners. All that info and more can be found on Arian Pedigrees. And then we got one more bonus one for you. It's Ohio Derby winner Batten Down, who John and I talked about on a previous Rail Talk. He's a brother to 2 other graded stakes winners in Tacitus and Scylla. Scylla also won this past weekend in the Florida Lee at Churchill Downs. Out of 5-time Grade 1 winner Close Hatches, daughter of First Defense by Unbridled Song. And he's probably the opposite to Galileo. Only 3.8% stakes winners to runners, totaling 14, but 3 of them are in this pedigree. Close Hatches, Lockdown with the dam of Idiomatic, and another Grade 1 winner in Siskin. So much great info like this is available at Arian Pedigrees, the most exhaustive, the most comprehensive pedigree database in the industry. Check them out, arion.co.nz. And as always, appreciate everyone over at Arian for the sponsorship. Welcome to the latest edition of Breakaway Rail Talk. I've been wanting to talk to this dude on camera for a while. We chatted and we hung out in Saratoga. He and his family are great, salt of the earth racing fans, racing participants. He's the founder and the managing partner of Blue Lyon Thoroughbreds. Dave Lyon, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Joe. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's lots of we want to talk about, want to discuss. But let's just start with you and your story. It might tie into your family's story and how they got into racing. What was the first thing that really gave you the bug to get you into this sport?
Yeah, just I got to give my mom and dad credit for raising their family in Saratoga Springs. We're myself and my 2 siblings, my older sister and younger sister, were all born there, raised there, went to Saratoga High School. So, if you live there, you're exposed to the racetrack. Used to be the August place to be. Now it's a little bit longer, thank heavens. But it's just a great place to grow up. But you are absolutely exposed to racing, whether you like it or not. Racing is a big part of what you are if you're from Saratoga.
And then, how far along the line did you decide that you wanted it to be part of your life in terms of business and not just to be a hobby?
Yeah, look, I was going to the racetrack since I was a kid. I worked at the Gideon Putnam Hotel doing room service in the mornings, in the summers. As soon as we were done with room service, which was a great job because, you were done by 10, 11 o'clock, we'd run over to the racetrack with all our tips. We'd do, dollar exacta box, dollar trifecta boxes, and just following the races from there. And then, I always stuck with it, followed everything, as I went through high school and college. As far as, wanting to be involved as an owner, the barriers to entry are pretty significant in this sport. You got to have some disposable income. So it does take a little bit of time. Probably in my late 20s, I started to get serious about wanting to get involved. And then, as you get an opportunity with somebody like West Point, which is what I did. I did some stuff with Little Red Feather. West Point had winners with both. Had my first winner, a horse named Heated Verdict with West Point. That gave me kind of the bug. And, I always knew that I'd probably want to go off on my own, have my own silks, being from Saratoga. So, probably in my, mid 30s is when I started to really get serious about wanting to do something on my own.
Nice. And so you have a great story that you told me before about your first big winner at Saratoga, separate from the bigger partnerships. First, can you tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind starting Blue Lyon and then transition into that story? Because, it's as good as it gets.
Yeah, no. So, when I started to get serious and say, I want to go off on my own, you got to start with putting your sales together. There's a lot of stuff that you got to do. You can't just go, find a trainer, find a bloodstock agent, go get a horse. There's a lot of paperwork that's involved. I wanted to build a nice brand. I wanted to have a good logo. If you see my logo, it's a lion with the BL. It's Blue Lion. It's spelled Lion conventionally, not like my last name with a Y. My ego's not that big, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do this on my own. So I need some partners. But the inspiration for the blue and the white was the Saratoga Blue Streaks. Those are our hometown colors. So I put a logo together, and then honestly, Terry Finley introduced me to David and Gordo. There's nobody else that you can be introduced to that's as good as that, as far as getting your feet wet in the industry. Cherie had just decided to go off on her own, Cherie DeVoe. Our first horse, we bought two horses together with David, a horse named Miss Vinegar, and a horse named Heartstrings. Heartstrings was a probably not a great horse, kind of slow working out, but inexpensive. It was our first one. David thought it would be a good one that we could probably get to run at Saratoga. Fast forward to I think it was 2018, but it was a Sunday night at Saratoga, maiden 40 claimer, had about 30 people there. Most of my original partners are all my friends from Saratoga, all walks of life. Last race of the day, we come from the clouds, 39-1, and Jose Lozcano brings the horse home. And you would have thought we won the Breeders' Cup Classic. They kicked us out of what's now the post bar, the paddock bar. They kicked us out of there. We outlived our stay there better than Tommy Bellhouse wasn't even there at 9 o'clock at night. And Tommy was there actually when we did win. So it was just, that really got everybody the bug. It kind of gave me kind of the reassurance that I had done the right thing. It's a really, really difficult sport, as you know, just to get a horse to the racetrack. But to get one of our first horses across the line at Saratoga is really special.
I mean, a lot of people say, winning with your first horse is the biggest blessing and curse you could possibly have.
Pressure was on after that. Yeah.
No, and it is. There are so many ups and downs of the sport, and this is one of the perspectives I really wanted you on to give us, because I work for West Point. I have the luxury, the brand pitches itself, all I got to do basically is not screw it up. Obviously, I work hard in what I do, but West Point has an established brand. It's a much harder sell when you're first coming up as a partnership. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges that you faced in these number of years where you've been trying to get Blue Lion to that next level?
Yeah, I mean, it's, when you win early, it really becomes a burden on you. That's what people expect. This is a sport, as you know, where 2 out of 10 times you're going to, you're lucky. You're at the top of the sport if you're batting 200. And we've been fortunate with the horses that we've bought and raced to be at that level pretty consistently over time. And, I give most of that credit, not to myself, but to the people like David and Gordo, people like Cherie, the Ray Handels, Michelle Nevins, obviously Steve Asmussen, and primarily Toby Sheets, who got us there. But yeah, it's difficult if you have early success here to continue that success. And look, I think you guys are the exceptions to the rule. You seem to win, greatest stakes every weekend and sometimes 3 a day. Well, it's the truth. So but it's really tough to keep people interested when you go through those valleys. The highs are highs, the lows are lows. I think that's the cliche in our business. But, what we always promise to people is that we're going to have a good time. We may or may not get to the winner's circle. We try to have that, the get together the night before, not the night of the race. People react differently when you win or you lose, but, you've got to offer kind of an experience to people. It's the experience of going to the racetrack, having fun. You spent a great amount of time with my family at the Belmont, and we had a great time with you. That's the type of, atmosphere that I want for Blue Lion. It's the familial atmosphere that we have. We can't always win on the racetrack, but we're certainly going to have a good time. We're always going to go out to dinner, win or lose.
Yeah, no, and I can vouch for that. You guys are a blast. Very easygoing, and you honestly saved me at Saratoga. Those are our West Point partners. It's hard being on all the time when you're up there. So it was great to just kick my feet up and chill with you guys because you're so much fun.
Yeah,
but like, let's talk about like what your ideal size would be for Blue Lion. Like, how many horses do you have now? How much bigger would you ideally like to get? I'm guessing you don't want to have like 150 plus horses, but where would you like to be?
Yeah, we're not looking to be West Point. We're trying to stay small. I like having about, anywhere from 10 to 20 partners at a time. We've got this is the smallest amount of the horses that we have in training right now. We've got only 4. We won on Friday with From Another Mother, and they dropped him down into the 40 claiming. So we got the win of the claim, and he did get claimed by Gustavo Rodriguez. So he's off the books. He was a hard knocker for us. 25 starts, 4 wins, 8 seconds. Like, you can't ask for a better horse. He won over $300,000. But my goal is to be really selective with the partners. I don't necessarily have a public partnership per se. It's more word of mouth. I want to be comfortable with the partners. I want them. We generally have a connection between everybody in the partnership. I certainly will take on new people. I've met some new people that want to get interested and involved in the game. But I think 7 to 10 horses is probably our goal. We did not buy anything this year at the 2-year-old sales. I'm kind of in a wait and see mode with the economy. Again, as I mentioned, we've got partners from all walks of life. It's not cheap to get involved in sport, even at the lowest levels, the 2.5% to 3%. So we're just trying to watch the market now, see how the next year plays out. Obviously, we're in transition with Aqueduct and Belmont, and even Saratoga at this point. So I'm not looking to be a huge partnership. I want to keep it close. I want to be able to give kind of as much white glove service as I can without having a staff. You're looking at the staff of Blue Lion. It's a hard thing to do when you're on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is something to be said about having those kind of close-knit, intimate partnerships. And I think that's something that actually West Point, I think, is trying to do as well, to make the partnerships a little bit smaller, sell higher percentages of the horses, just because you lose some of that cachet and some of that hands-on feel when you do have the giant partnerships like the My Race horses of the world. When we first met last fall, it was at the Breeders' Cup, you were a little distraught about the industry. And I hope you don't mind me saying that on air, because you just had a frustration I think a lot of people share in this business, where you just couldn't find enough races to get your horses into. And we've experienced that recently with a couple of horses, and these races just will not go. Where are you at with that now? Do you feel any better about it? Or do you feel like this is an inexorable path that the sport is on, where there just aren't enough horses to fill these races?
Yeah, I'm a little bit better. Winning solves some things. Obviously, you had a winner on Friday to, change my attitude a little bit on this call. But, I'm still a little bit hesitant to say that everything's good in racing. And we all know, if we're being realistic, that it's not. We're not filling races. I give a lot of credit to David O'Rourke at NYRA. He's given some of our smaller people in the industry, including myself, Matt Kater from Adelphi Racing, some other Brian Spagnola from America's Pastime. They've given us some time in their executive offices to kind of air our grievances on field sizes, the races that they're offering. The racing secretaries were there. Keith was there. They've given us an opportunity to speak, but until we see, the cards being written, I'm still in that kind of holding pattern. It's why we're not buying as many horses. In all fairness, and I love the New York breeding program and the New York bred program itself. We're breeders. We're going to race a horse in Saratoga that we bred. But we see all the commercials that it pays to own a New York bred. Well, it pays to own a New York bred if you can get that horse to race. We had a horse, Detective Tom, who was a turf sprinter, won that debut at Saratoga last year. We could not get him into an allowance race on the grass in the fall. Those opportunities just go like that. And we weren't the only one. There were horses that broke their maiden, back in June at Belmont, and they had to wait, 6 months for the next race. We were forced to run on the dirt in stakes races. Now, Detective Tom performed very well. We got a second and a third to El Grande O, and, we finished behind, I forget the name of the horse, one of the Mischiefs that the Paradise Farms owns, and Antonio Venice. So, real good competition. the horse we beat at Saratoga, Instamatic, came back. He's 2 for 2 this year for Danny Gargan. So we had him in good company. We know he's a really good racehorse, and we don't have anywhere to race him. He's been on the shelf now. He might miss Saratoga. He just has a little minor thing. But, it's discouraging when you have to spend the money that we do to keep these horses in training. Even if you give them a break, we always give our horses a break on the farms, at least 3 months out of the year. But we need to do better as an industry to get these tracks aligned with offering races for us. It's really frustrating. It's 60 grand plus to keep a horse in training. If we don't have an opportunity to run, you got to win twice a year to basically break even. And that's what we're trying to do here. Nobody's looking to get their, some killer return on investment. We really just want to get have the horse pay its way. And those opportunities have been few and far between. So, the long-winded, the short answer to the long-winded, ramble that I just went on is, yeah, I'm still frustrated. It's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't know what there is to be done about it. That's the problem. It's like we just don't have enough horses to fill these cards. So without, contraction, fewer tracks, fewer races, I just think that's going to be kind of us banging our head against the walls about that for a while.
Yeah, and we're all competing for the same purses, and there's multiple tracks that are going off all day. I'm not a big bettor, but, I know the bettors are frustrated in that way as well. And, without some kind of central governing body, and I'm a huge proponent of that, I think we absolutely need that. But when you have rogue states like Texas and, I didn't expect Louisiana to come out with what they came out with about a month ago. It's a little bit alarming. And, I know there's problems in California, and certainly there's problems in New York, no doubt about it. But there's a lot to fix.
Yeah, for sure. But I would just like to follow up on a positive note. What did you think? I was very heartened by the reaction in the industry to Louisiana Racing Commission changing those rules and made them be like, oh, shit. Whoops, we didn't mean to piss this many people off. What was your takeaway from that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it was a huge positive for the immediate reaction. I think sometimes the sport, a lot of people go quiet. I think racetrackers in general, and I'm talking about the trainers and their staffs, they're quiet. People are not willing to kind of make noise. And I'm happy to see that a lot of people are stepping forward now and making some noise. People that have been silent before, they don't realize what kind of voice they have if they just let it out. I think a lot of people have to be a lot more proactive. We can just read the headlines every day and be dissatisfied and go on Twitter and everybody complain, or we can, take action and let your voice be heard. People are listening. And, I think that's a perfect example, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons we love doing this podcast, because we feel like we have a voice and we're using it. And with social media, these regulators or these decision makers are more accessible than ever. So I think that's I was saying this when we talked about it initially on the show. That's where the insular nature of the sport is a benefit. Sometimes the insular nature is a shitty thing because, we have blinders on. We can't really fathom what's going on outside of the industry, how other people perceive us. But when you do have that insular nature pay off in a way where you have that direct line of communication, I think that's something we really got to take advantage of.
Yeah, totally agree.
Switching back to the field size thing, sort of, it's kind of related to that. There was the news that broke earlier today, that, and this had been rumored to be happening for a while, but now it's been confirmed that when the new Belmont Park does reopen and scheduled to reopen in 2026, the winter racing, about 3 months or so of racing, the races are going to be carded exclusively on the new synthetic tracks. So they're not going to use a dirt service in the winter anymore. There was a lot of reaction from that from both sides. I think a lot of people, Andy Sterling made a good point about this. He was like, a lot of people that do not bet and just complain about the Aqueduct winter cards are now up in arms that they're switching to the synthetic. On the one hand, I saw people making the point that, why would you stay in New York instead of just shipping down to Florida, if it's going to be the same opportunities, the same track? On the other hand, maybe you got some people who don't want to spend all that money and who are worried about running their turf or, middle horses on the dirt. What's your reaction to that news?
Well, I will tell people, if you don't own a horse, it's, I've had plenty of bills for $3,000 to get my horse down to Florida. So if we're able to, I have a kind of a mixed reaction to this. I have 3 probably turf horses for Saratoga this summer. And Detective Tom, if he comes back in the fall, which we totally expect, that's an opportunity for us to stay in New York. Otherwise, we're making plans to go somewhere else. So the synthetic, in my mind, is a positive. Where I'm a little bit torn and probably a little bit discouraged is that we're not going to be racing on dirt for the winter races. I think the Withers and the Gotham, which we won with Morello, that path to the Derby is now going to be on synthetic. I don't know that, I'm a little bit more of a traditionalist, but, and then I think the wood goes back at that point to the dirt. So, I think that road to the Derby is a little bit different now that we're running. If you won the Gotham and you're targeting the wood, which is what we did with Morello, now you're going from one surface to the next. So, look, you're never going to appease this entire industry, fan base, bettors, owners, trainers. There's enough people who have a voice on Twitter. I wish you have to qualify to be on Twitter somehow. There's a lot of anonymity out there that make a lot of noise, but there's also some people that I really respect, a lot of people in the industry that I respect that have different viewpoints from me. And I think a lot of people are making some good points. But, I think in general, I would lean towards it's a positive thing. Just rebuilding Belmont itself and seeing those renderings, I think it's going to be really positive. But, having the track available to us without having to ship to Florida and Kentucky and, Louisiana and Texas, I don't see how it can be viewed as a negative.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I lean towards that. Like, I think the dirt horses, like they're cheap horses anyway. So are they going to really ship those horses somewhere else? Like they're going to give it a shot, I think, on the synthetic, and the turf horses might stick around a little bit longer now, just because, like you said, it's a long ship, an expensive ship down to Florida,
and safety too, Joe. Like I believe in safety, and I think the synthetic. I think there's good data out there that suggests that synthetic is better for the horses. Like I'm all for the bettors. I love the bettors. I said before I'm not a big betting guy, but let's take care of these horses first and put them on the right surfaces. The winters can be pretty tough as it is here in New York, and if we're going to run on. If the dirt surface is going to be the same as it is in Saratoga, I understand why we're not going to run on dirt in the winter. It's tough enough to run on that surface in the summer up in Saratoga.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, it's not good for the bettors to have canceled cards. We got a lot of canceled cards in the winter at Aqueduct, and theoretically we have fewer of them with the synthetic track. You mentioned Morello. That was the first horse that you guys had that was really on the Derby trail. Was there anything from that experience that you learned or that you would want to do differently next time? Like, I assume you guys, you're not meddlers. Like, you're not going to tell the trainers what to do. But just from your perspective, was there anything you learned from that trip down the Derby trail?
Yeah, 100% always sell your horse when someone wants to buy it. 100%. And, it was a small percentage. We had a lot of people interested in buying just the small pieces. I won't name names, but, a lot of really significant people in the industry wanted a piece of Morello. And my partners and I have two partners on a horse, Diamond T Racing and Iapetus Racing. We got the Derby fever, and we were like, hey, we're going to have a stallion. We're going to win the Derby. We didn't think we were going to win the Triple Crown, but at the time we won the Gotham, we were 3 for 3. There was no indication that he wasn't going to go long. Obviously, the Memorial changed everything through his shoe. And then, as it happens in the sport, things went downhill. But sell your horse when someone wants to buy it. But a lot of lessons learned. This is a really tough sport. It's a tough pill to swallow when you have to make that decision. I know I was at OBS with my partner when Steve broke the news that, we were, I think at that point we were 2 weeks out from the Derby. We all had houses booked. We had our tickets. We were talking to Churchill. We were getting all the arrangements, talking to NBC. Like, Steve called us. We were looking to buy another horse, and we literally just, the rug gets pulled out from underneath you, and you just, it's a real tough thing to deal with. I think it was really, really tough on a lot of my partners to get to that level. So I think some of the learning is like learn how to deal with disappointment in a big way. This wasn't just losing a race on a Wednesday at Aqueduct. This was, going to the mountaintop with potentially the Derby favorite. I mean, we were in the Derby after the Gotham. We had 50 points. We didn't have to run in the wood, and we did. All he needed to do was get around the racetrack, and he threw a shoe and really didn't. And then he had a very minor foot issue, and we did right by the horse. And ultimately, what I told my partners is, look, we preserved this horse. Go back to the 2022 Derby field and tell me who's still running. I think Morello, who was, obviously not in the field, but he's still running. We've got him down in Texas right now. We're slowly building him back, but he's still a viable racehorse to us, and he's special to us. So, it's a tough road to go down the Derby road. I don't know that I want to go down it again. It had a lot of strife attached to it, but winning that Gotham and being able to have the opportunity was unbelievable. No one's ever going to forget it. Toby Sheets got us there. Well, shout out to him. We just passed away, but it was exciting to get on that trail. But it's not an easy thing. It's not just all sunshine.
No, absolutely. And so just to clarify, like if you could go back in time and do it again, would you have sold the whole horse or a piece of a horse? Like, what do you think?
No, just a piece of him. Yeah. Okay. And nobody really wanted the whole horse. Actually, one guy did. You probably figure out who wanted to run in his silks. But I would have sold the piece. Always take money, when it's on the table. That's the best lesson. We just our egos were inflated at that time. We thought we were going to the Derby and had a stallion on our hands, and things change overnight. That's the thing. Like that's a good Charlie Whittingham quote that I always bring up is horses are like strawberries. They can go bad overnight. And that's one of the things that's a challenge about the job at West Point is like, it's a lot of reporting bad news to people. And you don't want to be that guy that has to call up. And it's just the nature of the game is there's going to be a lot of stops and starts. And that's why you need the right people getting in it for the right reasons and not people who are looking for a killer return on investment, people who are actually passionate about the game and want to get closer to it. So do you do any like recruiting of new partners? Like you said, it's a very tight knit group, mostly people you knew. How do you actively try to bring in new business, or is it just word of mouth? Yeah, it's mostly word of mouth, Joe. I'm not actively looking out there. I don't advertise. My website has been under construction for several years, so I'm looking to get that. I want to move it forward, but I want to be careful about who I bring in. It's got to be the right partners. I've had some good experiences I've had mostly great experiences with partners, but there's been some people who don't know how to lose. Who don't understand the business and that it's mostly waiting. We spent a lot of downtime. Before Friday, we only had one winner this year. We don't have a lot of horses and we don't have a lot of starts, but without having a win since January, we were in quite a rut, and it's hard to keep people excited when you don't have the volume on the racetrack. But like I said, winning does change things. We've got momentum heading into the Saratoga meet, some confidence, but it's a tough sport to manage expectations. Yeah, no, 100%. But I gotta be honest. Like I admire you and what you're doing because it's a startup business, and I think you can't compare yourself like to the West Points of the world or any of these other big partnerships, Eclipse, whatever. You have a startup. We have an established brand that's been doing this for 30 years that basically sells itself. You're trying to do this thing from the ground up, and I'm honestly impressed with what you've done so far. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's look, the bills come every day. Some come by mail, some are scratched out on a piece of paper, some you can just hit pay. It's tough just the bookkeeping and keeping up with the bills. We want to make sure everybody gets paid, dealing with the trainers. Going to the sales, being away from family. I have a real job. This is not my job. It doesn't pay. Until probably soon, I have not marked up any horses. So everybody gets in at a pure prorated share of what we've paid for the horse, whether it's in the beginning or expenses to date. I've chopped it up pretty fairly to people. So, it's tough to go on my own. If I were to make this any larger than it is, I'm going to need some help. And, I'm kind of in that transition of where we go from here, but, right. Undecided, but, Blue Lion's going to be around. Yeah, no, I have no doubt. All right. Quick sidebar, because I think it was your mom that told me that you're a Jet fan. And I was like, we have not spoken about this yet. So this is the first time we're doing it. It's going to be on camera. Who saddled you with that misery? I moved to Long Island a long time ago. I'm still a Saratogian at heart, and I always will be. I feel like I'm still a visitor and a temporary resident of Long Island. I know you're a Brooklyn guy, so we consider Brooklyn part of the larger island. But my wife's cousins were all insane Jet fans. I kind of grew up, growing up in Saratoga, you really don't have a team. It's either the Giants or the Bills or whoever's on TV, but it wasn't the Jets. But back in like 96, that was the year I graduated college and started getting real close with my wife's cousins. And they were all rabid Jets fans. Their father, knew Joe Namath and partied with those guys in Freeport, Long Island. So I basically was inherited. And, once it happens, you kind of get the bug. And then 2 years later, 98 was the year with Vinny Testaverde, and we should have beat Denver. We probably would have won the Super Bowl that year. I think that's who Denver beat that year. And then the next year was when Vinny went down with the Achilles. I think, that's where my Jet misery started that following year. And it doesn't matter when you come in as a Jet fan, there's going to be misery attached to it. You may have a high moment, like if you came in when Rex had those teams at the AFC championships, but, a year later, you're going to be miserable about something. So it's been a long time. I was a season ticket holder forever. I do have a really funny story about the Jets and Tom Brady. I was at the game when Mo Lewis hit Drew Bledsoe and knocked him out. And I remember, because we're friends with everybody in the section, I said, and I grew up a Michigan fan. My sister lived in Ann Arbor. And I said, don't worry. This guy, Tom Brady's no good. He lost his job 3 times at Michigan, Drew Henson, who ended up playing for the Yankees, Brian Greasy. I said, don't worry about Tom Brady. It's nothing to worry about. And here we are decades later. And I met him at the Derby one year, and I said, you've been ruining my life for the past 10 years. And he said, are you a Jet fan? I said, yeah. He goes, it's been longer than that.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect, man. Oh, that's so good that you were at that game. I mean, I told this story before, but the first game that I called myself a Jet fan was the game where Vinny blew his Achilles out.
Oh God. Yeah.
That 98 season, they had such buzz around them. I didn't really have a team. I had a bunch of friends who were Giant fans. I wanted to go another direction. I should have taken that as a sign that this was not going to turn out well for me.
Well, I thought it was going to be all right because Tom Tupa comes in, our punter, and throws a touchdown to Keyshawn Johnson on the next play.
What? Why didn't they keep Tom Tupa in?
Yeah.
He was just as good as Rick Meyer or whatever other bums that were sitting behind Vinny.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, look, if you want to be a Jet fan, there's going to be misery. But we've had some good years. I mean, everybody knocks on the Jets, but, those years with Rex were pretty good. I mean, Mark Sanchez, we had the Buffalo. We went to the AFC Championship 2 years in a row. I mean, there's something to be said about that.
It's just getting further and further in the rear view. I always, from 1998 to 2010, they won a bunch of playoff games. They were consistently pretty good. Since then, it's been a very, very dry walk through the desert, not getting to the playoffs. How do you feel about this season? I think the roster on paper is stacked, but it's just hard for me to believe that Rodgers and that O-line are going to stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think they did enough on the O-line in the offseason. Obviously we got 4 plays out of Aaron Rodgers. I think he's been in Egypt. He missed, just the writing's on the wall for another disaster this year.
Is that a scoop? Is he in Egypt?
Oh, I thought I read that he was. That's where he was. But
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. I thought I read that. But, look, you cannot – the Jets are the Jets. That's what they do. They're going to do something to make headlines. I did like that they were on Hard Knocks, and I was like, this is, and then when Aaron Rodgers came out of the tunnel with the flag, I had a feeling this is too good right now. I'm too excited for this. Something bad is going to happen. And I feel like we just wish it upon ourselves, and we know what's going to happen. So we could say, yeah, we told you so. We suck. I don't know why we do this to ourselves.
Those were the most electric 4 plays in a while for the Jets, though. So hopefully we get a little bit more than that. I'm coming up to Saratoga opening week. Are you going to be up there?
I'm going to try, yeah. We're targeting, what's opening weekend? Is it 12th? Opening day is the 12th? Okay.
Opening day is the 11th, Thursday the 11th.
Yeah, we've got, we're looking at a race for Union Dolly on the 18th, I believe. So I'm going to get up as much as I can. My daughter is going into her second year of college. My son plays lacrosse. We just finished up every weekend in June with tournaments. So I'm going to try to spend a couple of days a week at home and a couple of days a week up in Saratoga. I mean, there's nothing better than the mornings at Saratoga. That's where I want to wake up every day and have my coffee.
Well, Dave, this was so much fun, man. I hope to see you up at Saratoga. You guys are a ball to hang out with. If you want to follow Dave and Blue Lions on Twitter, they're Blue Lion Racing on Twitter. Dave is DLion19. You can check out the website as well, BlueLionThoroughbreds.com. Appreciate the time, brother. Great to talk to you.
You too, Joe. Always great spending time with you. Can't wait to see you in Saratoga.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the latest episode of Breakaway Rail Talk. Appreciate Dave Lyon for coming through and chatting with me. Thank you to Petty Wolf, our producer, our associate producers, Julia Agresta, Nathan Wilkinson, and Brad Gerke. Thank you to Arian Pedigrees, as always, for sponsoring. We're off this week for a regular Rail Talk. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Get all your friends and fam to do the same. We're full steam ahead to another 50, 100, 150 plus episodes, and we're going to have a ton of fun doing it. See you next week back here on Rail Talk.